Dobra, dzień dobry. Dzień dobry Państwu. Witam na wystawie Tam, gdzie słońce kładzie się spać, Amélie Bouvier. Wystawa ta jest powiązana z historią deszczu meteorytów, która miała miejsce we wsi Fasty pod Białymstokiem w 1827 roku. I doszliśmy do wniosku, żeby wystawa łączyła ze sobą elementy historyczne razem z pracami przygotowanymi specjalnie na tą ekspozycję. Wystawa ta, właśnie tak jak mówiłem, ma punkt wyjścia w tej historii. Doszliśmy do wniosku, by składała się z wielu elementów, nie tylko prac artystycznych, prac na papierze, rzeźb, pracy wideo, a także różnych innych projektów artystycznych, ale też obejmowała taką część historyczną związaną właśnie z historią meteorytów, historią meteorytyki ogólnie, a także z samymi meteorytami. I w momencie, kiedy te prace i te meteoryty ze sobą są zestawione i współgrają, tworzą one całościowy odbiór wystawy. Na tym nam bardzo zależało. Tak więc począwszy od historii, która miała miejsce w Fastach w 1827 roku, spisanej przez Jana Wolskiego, gimnazjalistę białostockiego, chcieliśmy stworzyć taką gablotę związaną właśnie z tą historią. Mamy tutaj pierwsze sprawozdanie właśnie Jana Wolskiego opublikowane w Monitorze Warszawskim, a także fragmenty meteorytu Białystok, który spadł w 1827 roku i co wydaje mi się ciekawe, właśnie powraca wreszcie do Białegostoku z licznych kolekcji. Te akurat obiekty pochodzą z kolekcji prywatnej Tomasza Jakubowskiego, a także z Muzeum Ziemi PAN w Warszawie. Natomiast oczywiście to, o co nam chodziło, to było właśnie powiązanie tych historycznych wydarzeń, spadków meteorytu i zwrócenie uwagi na to, jak rzadko zastanawiamy się nad tymi spotkaniami kosmosu z Ziemią, bo jednak właśnie często jest tak, że mamy do czynienia ze spadkami meteorytów, docierają do nas jakieś elementy kosmiczne, natomiast rzadko na to zwracamy większą uwagę i nam razem z Amélie Bouvier, z artystką, zależało na tym, by właśnie te powiązania w jakiś sposób unaocznić, nie tylko tak jak ma to miejsce w muzeach geologicznych czy muzeach Ziemi, ale właśnie zwrócić uwagę także w polu sztuki współczesnej i to właśnie wydawało nam się bardzo istotne. Też właśnie tutaj interesujący jest fakt takiej kulturowej historii meteorytów, którą zawarliśmy w tej tutaj oto broszurze, Tam, gdzie słońce kładzie się spać. Pokazujemy, jak wielu artystów, a także poetów interesowało się meteorytami, że tak naprawdę meteoryty bardzo silnie osadzone są nie tylko w nauce, ale także w naszej kulturze. I takie kulturowe spojrzenie na meteoryty stało się dla nas takim bardzo interesującym wyzwaniem. I oczywiście tutaj taki background można w pewien sposób zarysować dla tej całej wystawy. Natomiast oczywiście też bardzo się ucieszyłem, że zaproszenie do współpracy nad tą wystawą wyraziła Amélie Bouvier, która tworzy pracę bardzo często w oparciu właśnie o eksplorację kosmosu, eksplorację astronomicznych elementów. To, co też wydało mi się ciekawe i co jest ważne w kontekście samych meteorytów, to fakt, że akurat meteorytami nie zajmuje się astronomia, tylko geologia, ponieważ astronomia zajmuje się głównie obserwacją, a geologia bardziej doświadczeniem tym takim bardziej namacalnym, można by tak to powiedzieć. Tak więc też dla mnie jako kuratora był bardzo ciekawy cały proces prowadzenia przygotowań nad tą wystawą, ponieważ no, też wiele się dowiedziałem. To jest też taki dialog między historią sztuki, między nauką, naukami geologicznymi, astronomicznymi, a także oczywiście w jaki sposób to wszystko może ze sobą łączyć właśnie politykę sztuki współczesnej i działanie artystki. I tutaj w tym kontekście właśnie chciałem taki bardzo ogólny wstęp zarysować i przedstawić Amélie Bouvier, która opowie o poszczególnych pracach na wystawie.
So hello everybody. First of all, I'm very happy to be here, and we decided to do this show after Przemek invited me, and I would like to thank him, of course, and also all the team of the Arsenal Gallery, with who we are working for 3 days, and it was really a very nice and interesting time, and also all the people that borrow all this material, historical material that came to complete the work, and it's first time that my work that deals with astronomy subjects can be in a sort of a dialogue directly with these objects coming from out of space. So I think Przemek already presented a bit my practice, so I can show you the works that are here in the exhibition. So the title of the show, Where the Sun Goes to Sleep, was a title that we both founded because of the event that happened in Russia, meteorite event that happened in Russia in 1908. And so there was very little eyewitness, but the people who saw this event, it was basically a big explosion and a big lightning, thought there was a second sun in the sky, and that and they wonder where this sun went to sleep. So that's why we choose this title. And then I can maybe speak about these works. So there are 2 works from this series. This set of drawings were made in 2018, and the set is named The Sun Conspiracy. So basically for me it was a way to speak about the sun, how the sun brings life, but also the fact that the sun can be a source of problems, anxiety, and also in a lot of narration, historical narration, the sun is related very much to apocalyptic events. So here in this first drawing, it's a little bit a speculative way of treat the fact that meteorites, for some people, were the origin of life in Earth. So there's a group of people that think through history that thought that life arrived in Earth because of the impact of a stone coming from outer space. Even today there's people who still believe on this, so I like to inspire myself on these speculative stories, even if they are more close to fiction than to reality, but we can also question what is fiction, what is reality, and this is what I want to do also with my work. There's another drawing belonging from this set, The Sun Conspiracy, that is the one there on the back, and it's also the same subject related with meteorites. So how is there life in these meteorites? Is there micro lives that we cannot see and that can travel time and space? So all these drawings are made by hand. I use Indian ink, so drawing ink, and I use a very thin pen. And I use rulers and a very automatic gesture that sometimes I feel that I am the machine. Lots of people think that these drawings are etching or engraving, which I really appreciate because it shows that my objective of transform myself into a machine, drawing machine, works. And it's a way also to have a dialogue with the action of drawing, and there's parts in the drawing where the ink is absent, And this is because my hand gets tired, or my shoulder gets tired, or because I'm going more or less fast. And then the ink reacts in a different way. So in dialogue with these drawings, there's a set of 3 works. The name of these works is Lost. I choose to name them like this because I got inspired in a category of asteroids, that is the lost asteroids. By the way, it's not just asteroids, but asteroids or comets. And so the scientists consider an outer space object lost when they cannot see them anymore with their eye or through the telescopes. Actually, these objects are obviously not lost. They kind of know where they go, if we imagine that they have a personality. But it's just the fact that we, as human beings, we don't have any more access to them. So we consider them lost. So some of them, they can be lost for 10 years, they can be lost for 100 years, for 500 years, it really depends. So I got inspired by them. So the main shape that you see in these drawings is the main subject. The shape is the shape that I could found by my research of the actual meteorites, asteroids. And then you have also the description in the drawing, so there's a bit of writing that explains when they were first seen and when they got lost, or eventually when the eye of the observer could see them again. So you have some dates. And then you have also elements in the drawing that look like zooming in the main subject. So of course here we are totally in the fiction. You have elements in these rounds, in the parts that are round. You have elements that are much more closer to organic fluids and maybe closer to biology. So it was a little bit my way of bringing this very scientific data into a more fictional and eventually romantic way of speaking about this subject. So all these drawings in this first room are dialoguing with this central element. So it's a vitrine where you can see a book that for me have very important and inspiring drawings from Trouvelot. Trouvelot was an astronomer and an artist from the end of 19th century. French that migrated to the United States, and he did beautiful lithographies of the sky, of the sun, of craters, but also of comets and meteor events. So we were very lucky to have this in the show. They are beautiful and they have this sort of texture and abstraction that is very, very inspiring. And close to it, there's very beautiful meteorites. And there's 2 that are very important for me. So one of them is this one that fell in Russia in 2013. And then the one on the back also fell in Siberia in 1947, if I'm correct. And this one, the one on the back, I actually bought one myself. Smaller, because they are not so accessibly easy to get financially. So, and I use it in one of my works. And so this meteorite, I use it in this work. The name of this work is Gains and Losses. I did it also in Isamar-Old in 2017. It was inspired by French astronomer Camille Flammarion, who was a fantastic person, very passionate, and he offered to his wife a jewelry, so a ring with a meteorite on it. And with my research, I could find where is this ring, and I know that it's in Paris. I tried to go there to find the person who had it several times, and somehow it was always difficult to see by myself the ring. So I never saw the ring, but I know that it was a silver ring and it had also a Russian meteorite. So I choose to do a silver ring also, very simple, because I don't have the image of the Camille Flammarion one. And I also put a Russian meteorite on it. And you have this hand that is a cast of my own hand that is offering this ring, but you cannot take the ring because it's fixed on the fingers, in between the fingers. And this hand, you don't really understand, is full of imperfections, and you don't understand if the hand is being created or if the hand is decomposing itself. So it's in between this coming to life, or on the opposite, losing his own life. And then there's a magnifying glass where the visitor is invited to see the meteorite. And this meteorite on the ring, it was also pretty much the inspiration for this drawing. So this drawing is just about shapes, and it's shapes that transform other shapes, and I did it with the shadows of the meteorite, this same meteorite we are speaking about. On the back of this room you can see another crazy object. So another meteorite that is very heavy, is about 30 kilos. So you can imagine what it makes falling from the sky in a very high speed and falling on Earth. It can really provoke quite a lot of problems, we can say. And he's also dialoguing with this work on the back. The work on the back is the first work of a set of works called Potentially Hazardous Portraits. And the scientist speaks about potentially hazardous objects to categorize the asteroids that are dangerous for us, which means the ones that are with an important size and that one day will eventually enter in collision with the Earth. So there's this scientific data that permits to classify the asteroids that are seen in space and to say if they are dangerous for us or not. So I choose to sort of humanize these asteroids and to turn them into portraits. There is 4 others. So in this room you have the 4 others. They have different scales because they have different levels of dangerousness. And also what is important is that so the shape is the actual shape of these asteroids, but then with my way of treating the drawing and the shapes, they became totally abstract. So I'm not sure we can recognize anymore the shape. And each of them, have their own personality and their own way of occupying the space. And on the bottom you have the 2 last frames. They are more related with biology also, and I got very inspired by my grandfather's work. He was a biologist, and so again we are totally in the fiction, of course. The last potentially hazardous portraits are much smaller and they are treated in a very different way. Also the use of color is important, and it's color, very flashy color. And I use this kind of color because in scientific imagery there's this very pronunciated colors to speak about texture or temperature or any other subject, but to give a very frontal impression or understanding of a subject. So I choose to use this kind of very flashy colors also in these drawings. And the last work in the show is the video that has the same title than the show, Where the Sun Goes to Sleep. It's a video that is almost built as a theater piece, so there's 4 different scenes, and each scene was inspired by 4 different meteorite falls that happen in different times in history. There's parts of the text that are not mine, but there's texts that are written by myself. But they are all very, very different. There's some of them that are more about data, more scientists, and others that are much more poetic and as if the text or the voice is a bit floating in time. And my intention was really to create a sort of relation in between the words and like the interpretation of the voice and the images that are images that I made myself, but also archive images or images that other people give me related with meteorites. And the sound of the video is a little bit going through all the exhibition, and you almost I think our wish, Przemek and me, was also that this sound is giving a general ambience and almost like when you are in the exhibition, you are in this kind of bubble where you can let yourself go with this voice, pronouncing these words and the sounds that are added to it.
To, co jest niezwykle ważne dla tej wystawy, to fakt właśnie z jednej strony historyczny, taki, że w XIX wieku urodziła się nowa nauka zwana meteorytyką, ale z drugiej strony w kulturze mieliśmy do czynienia z romantyzmem. I ten XIX wiek jakoś tak pobrzmiewa bardzo silnie i wybrzmiewa na tej wystawie, właśnie przede wszystkim w pięknych pracach Amélie Bouvier, która łączy z jednej strony właśnie takie naukowe studia nad obiektami kosmicznymi, obiektami astronomicznymi, z takim właśnie romantycznym, można powiedzieć, bardzo estetycznym wymiarem tych wspaniałych prac. Co chciałbym jeszcze więcej powiedzieć? Oczywiście bardzo chciałbym podziękować Galerii Arsenał za tą możliwość zrealizowania tej wystawy właśnie w tym miejscu, gdzie niedaleko stąd ten słynny deszcz meteorytów miał miejsce w 1827 roku. Chcielibyśmy bardzo serdecznie podziękować pani dyrektor Monice Szewczyk, koordynatorce Elizie Urbanowicz-Rojeckiej. Jesteśmy bardzo, bardzo zadowoleni z całej współpracy i szczęśliwi, że mogliśmy właśnie tą wystawę tutaj zaprezentować. Serdecznie zapraszamy do Galerii Arsenał, jeżeli będzie to tylko możliwe z uwagi na to, co się w tym momencie dzieje. I mamy też nadzieję, że publiczność za niedługo będzie mogła obejrzeć tą wystawę.